The Coalition and the business community are divided over how best to move forward with Labor's proposed overhaul of Australia's environmental laws. Joining me live is Fitzpatrick and Co Advisory Special Counsel Bruce Hawker and former New South Wales Liberal leader Kerry Chikarovski. Welcome to the panel, Bruce and Kerry. Let's start by talking about these environmental laws reforms taking place in Canberra today. I want to ask you, Kerry, do you think splitting the plans was a good initiative?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Say again. Splitting
do you think splitting the reforms?
So,
yes, that's right.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. No. Look, I understand why Susan Lee would want to do that. She wants to be seen to be cooperative insofar as she wants to get some of the substantive issues through, the process issues, so that we can get on with these reforms. I also understand why the government wouldn't want to do that. I mean, they don't want to have this battle twice. They actually want to get the bill through and over and done with. Interestingly, as you've pointed out, the business community have said they want it through in one go. I suspect that will come down to whether they are actually able to negotiate with the government the sorts of changes that they need. So you've got the government in a position where it's trying to negotiate with business on the one hand and keep them and the coalition happy, and then negotiate with the Greens and the environmental groups on the other hand. And I suspect that the government is probably in a position in the middle where they think they've probably got the balance right. It will be a question of how much they need to concede to both those groups to actually get it through. And
Bruce, what's going to give?
I think it's interesting that the Business Council is putting its weight behind the government on this. They want certainty, as they said in an earlier interview today on Sky, and I think that makes perfect sense. I agree with Kerry also that the government's thinking would be, we don't want to go through this twice. I mean, they're trying to do what they can, I think, to go down a path that creates a good balance between environmental protections and preserving business initiatives. There are some big things happening in Australia right now in that environmental versus mining space that really need to be properly managed, and that includes critical minerals and rare earths. It is quite a dirty process when you get down to the processing end of the story. So I think government needs to get on with it. Business wants them to get on with it. And I think essentially that's what they should do, rather than have to go back and run another round of the gauntlet with the crossbenchers further down the line, which would not be, I think, in the national interest.
Kerry, earlier on we had some panellists talking about Barnaby Joyce and him snubbing the Nationals party room. Do you think that he is suffering from attention or relevancy deprivation syndrome? You know, acting like a petulant child in order to be noticed because...
Well, if that's what he's suffering from, he's certainly given himself a big dose of correction around it, because he's dominated the headlines, as you know, for the last week or so. Look, I think it must be incredibly frustrating, not only for the National Party members who sit in the Parliament, but also probably the broader National Party membership, that a man who they supported Barnaby to become the Deputy Prime Minister of this country, the highest position that a National Party leader can hold. They supported him through good times and bad, and he's had some pretty awful times as well. And his membership in particular have supported him through all of that. So they must be sitting there tearing their hair out saying, well, Barnaby, what are you doing to the party that has been so loyal to you? Why aren't you showing the loyalty back? I mean, I know that he said he hasn't resigned from the National Party. I know that he hasn't said that he's going to join One Nation. I know that he hasn't said, or that he has said he won't sit as an independent. But the reality is, you know, you join a party, and I don't care whether it's the National Party, the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, One Nation or whatever, when you join those parties, you join them as a member who is going to contribute in a rational way to that party, and sometimes that party is going to make decisions that you don't agree with. And your obligation as a party member, as a member sitting in the Parliament, is to go in and to argue your case as strongly as you possibly can, get what concessions you can, and then if you can't accept them, then you have to, as a party member, you have to say, well, I fought the good fight. But Barnaby's just picking up his bat and ball and going home. He's not even prepared to have the fight anymore, and I think that's really unfair on his National Party colleagues.
Bruce, do you agree with that? And, earlier also a panellist said that nobody cares what Barnaby does and he's just doing it for himself, not on behalf of the rural population.
Look, I think there's always been a large dose of that in Barnaby, and I also think that there'd be people in the National Party who'd be saying good riddance, and for all the reasons that Kerry's enunciated. He has been a thorn in their side for a lot of his parliamentary career. They've accommodated him in a Senate spot in Queensland, then finding him a seat in New South Wales. He's wandered around the country. He's been what I call it, a heat-seeking missile when it comes to his own personal life. Nothing about him is easy, and now he's doing his level best to destroy the coalition from the right. They've already got all these problems on the left with the Teals, and now he's coming at them from the right. I mean, really, if I was them, I think I'd be saying, well, thanks for all your service, but enjoy life on the cross benches, and you can say and do whatever you damn well like, and it isn't going to make any difference at all. And he's basically reduced himself to that position, and I think Kerry's absolutely right. He held the highest position that a member of the National Party can hold. He was the Deputy Prime Minister, and not that he was all that good at it, but he was entrusted with a very important role. And now he's going down this path of sort of bewilderment. Doesn't even know what party he wants to be in, or whether he's going to be an independent, a member of the National Party, a One Nation representative, or what. And we're all expected to sit back and watch him go through this angst again. Well, no, I don't think people need that. I think they really need some certainty in their representation. And he was elected as a National Party Member of Parliament, by the way.
Okay, to our foreign policy now. We've got our Prime Minister meeting the Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Malaysia, and this is just a week after that RAAF jet incident with China, and also after that Australia-US rare earths deal was signed. How do you think it's going to go? Kerry?
Well, I think the Prime Minister needs to make it perfectly clear that the actions of the Chinese military were completely unacceptable to the Australian government. I think that needs to be put on the table, and I think the Prime Minister has already said that he's going to discuss security concerns, so I think that is obviously a key issue that will need to be raised. I think the Chinese are going to be very unhappy about the earths agreement, the rare earths agreement, because they thought they were able to control the world market, and now there's going to be some competition in that market. So I think that's going to be, again, an interesting conversation that the Prime Minister will have with the Premier, because I think that is going to be an interesting and difficult conversation in some ways. But at the end of the day, I think the attitude of the Prime Minister has, and it has been previously, has and will always be, that it's the Australian interests that have to come first. So I don't think he'll take a backward step. I think he's actually probably feeling pretty buoyed after his conversations with the President of the United States. So I don't think he'll believe he's negotiating from anything other than a position of strength.
Bruce?
Yeah.
What will we hear from those talks?
Well, I think in terms of the Chinese meeting, which it must be happening now, or must be pretty soon, with Premier Li.
Yes, it's happening now.
I do think that they would be making a strong point about the incident involving the aircraft, as he should. I think the Chinese, though, will understand that there's an element of realpolitik that Australia has to manage in its relationships, not just with them, but with the United States. I think the most important thing for Chinese negotiations is that they are conducted in a respectful manner, mutually respectful manner. And if they are, then I think we'll probably see an outcome which, at the end of the day, continues to serve Australia's interests, which is walking this very fine line, recognising that China is our major trading partner, but the United States is our major defence ally. And that is a big challenge for Australia. And so far, I think he's done a pretty good job. You compare with some of the, the stumbling that we've seen with prime ministers like Morrison wading into the coronavirus issue with the Chinese and ending up having tariffs placed on our exports, it looks like a very, very smooth and professional operation. And once again, you know, we can thank not only him, but Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Trade Minister Don Farrell for a pretty mature approach to our foreign affairs. In fact, a very mature approach.
Okay. Thank you so much to Kerry and Bruce.